Great. We shall begin. Welcome, everybody, and thank you very much for joining. My name is Moritz Lehmann. I'm Senior Oceanographer with Starboard Maritime Intelligence. And I'd like to introduce my guest in this interview. It is Matt Brown, the Chief Revenue Officer at Starboard Maritime Intelligence. Kia ora, Matt. Great to have you on.
Thanks, Moritz. Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Hey, Matt. I'm wondering if you could kick us off a little bit with what you do, what your role is here at Starboard, and how you get involved in so many operations in the maritime security space.
Yeah, thanks, Moritz. And it's a bit of an interesting one, I suppose, when you sort of see my job title and what I've been doing here at Starboard for the last couple of years, which has been scaling our commercial side of the business. But actually what that has given me the opportunity to do, and I've been really lucky to speak to a number of analysts and end users across the world who are actively using MDA platforms and different data sources and tools in these kind of operational settings. And that's kind of spiraled from us having conversations as part of our commercial strategy to actually then being, again, lucky enough to be present at some of these operations and exercises around the world. And so, yeah, I've had a number of conversations and a real view of how people are working in the space, which has been really eye-opening.
Cool, thank you. And if we're to take a step back, how do you define what actually constitutes an operation in the maritime security space?
Yeah, so I guess when I think about operations, they tend to be that sort of real-time collaborative projects that sort of sit outside of maybe an agency or department or even kind of countries' kind of day-to-day activities. So they're coming together to look at a specific area of focus. So there's a defined area, and they're really looking in that area or monitoring that area for high risk behaviors or certain activities or certain sort of areas of concern or illicit behaviors. And so it's this, I find from what we've kind of been involved in and how some of our customers and partners talk about operations, it kind of tends to be that coming together either with different colleagues within the same department or multiple departments or agencies or even countries that are kind of coming together to try and solve that problem over a defined area. So that's how we think about it anyway.
So it's a focus on solving problems in actual action on the ground or on the water, as it were, to initiate that.
Yeah, I think that is a really key element of it. Is moving from quite often just the assessment or kind of monitoring or understanding what's going on in an area to actually then dispatching assets, whether that's aerial assets for follow-up or additional remote sensing collections or even on water assets to try and then mitigate whatever the problem is that they're trying to identify.
So last month, you and our colleague Dave Kelby, a data scientist here at Starboard, participated in the CCAT exercise in Singapore. So that's an exercise as opposed to an operation, but it's related, right? How is that related, and what actually did you do in Singapore?
Yeah, so we were lucky enough to be out at CCAT 2023 exercise, which is a Southeast Asia cooperation and training exercise, and it's organised by the US Navy and also a lot of collaborating Southeast Asian navies and coast guards who are involved in that. And in terms of what that consisted of was around sort of 20 participating maritime forces that were coming together and looking at scenarios and planning both from an intelligence perspective. So using MDA software and tools and data sources to kind of assess which vessels they needed to inspect or how they could then approach vessels in the operational area or the exercise area, and then actually dispatching on-water teams to go and board and engage with these vessels. So mimicking kind of real-world behaviors, and so that was great for us to be able to kind of sit in the room and experience how those activities and decisions were made and how they were undertaken and what were the kind of communication flows and processes that went into that, but also really good insight for us into terms of what sort of tools and data sources and processes are they looking for to use to make these decisions, or actually where could we support them better or start to develop Starboard to actually answer some of those needs as well.
So CCAT actually wasn't just a desktop exercise. You weren't just sitting around playing war games, as it were. It was an actual assets were deployed, ships were out chartered for boarding, and so on. And how was Starboard used in that context?
Yeah, so it was exactly that. So there were boarding teams going out. There were flights that were looking for vessels that had gone dark. There was kind of assessments based on atmospheric conditions and vessels in the area, and kind of understanding of all the kind of situational awareness requirements as per a live operation, which was awesome to be involved in. And where we kind of sat within that was as one of the supporting technology partners. So again, providing insights, allowing some of the users there, or some of the participants there in that kind of intelligence and operational group, actually giving them the chance to use Starboard and sort of see how that could adapt to the tasks that they were trying to achieve and the insights they were trying to find about the vessels, to then relay them to the actual teams that were undertaking the boardings and exercises. So yeah, it was a chance to, I guess, road test Starboard in that sort of environment and really get some real world feedback and insights as to, what were they looking for and how can we best kind of support those activities. So.
Yeah, what an awesome opportunity. What were some of the challenges you've observed there that must come with coordinating and conducting what was a pretty big multinational operation with assets on the ground, in the air, in the water, multiple nations involved, and people that must come from different backgrounds, being used to different tools. What were some of those challenges that was grappled with?
Yeah, well, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. Like it was, and again, as an observer, just to see how all of these different groups were coming together, all very enthusiastic and keen to collaborate and work together, which was awesome to see. But also, you kind of understand that there are a lot of differences that you have to kind of coordinate and manage and work through in terms of whether there's experience in being involved in these kind of operations in the past, or different personnel that may be attending from each of the collaborating agencies, or just exposure to some of the different data sources or kind of tech platforms that are out there and being used. And so there is always a varying degree of experience and familiarity with all of these kind of functions that they're going into. And so I think that definitely came across as a key area that in these operations, that you have to be considering, and you have to kind of put together processes and plans and really clear comms flows around that. And CCAT was fantastic for that, because you had a very exactly that microcosm of all of the different collaborating agencies in the area. And it's a pretty big undertaking, because there are a lot of assets in play, a lot of different information sources, and although reasonably kind of tight areas, you're also talking about things like the Malacca Straits, South China Seas, Philippine Sea, which are also heavily trafficked with other vessels and shipping lanes and other kind of factors to consider as well. So yeah, there's a lot of plates spinning when you're thinking about something like CCAT. And again, just as an observer in our kind of first involvement with it earlier this year, it was pretty impressive just to see how the team, US Naval team and CCAT pull all that together and then coordinate with all those nations. So.
And I guess Starboard and you were one of the technology providers there at CCAT, so there must have been several others. And I suppose every team comes with their own favorite tool that they're using. And then one of the challenges must be how to integrate information from all these different tools, and how they perhaps ingest information differently. The satellite data, the ship location data, perhaps VMS data versus AIS data, and yeah, I can just imagine the challenge that that must have been to coordinate, but also a really good learning experience.
Yeah, it was, and I think that's the other thing. Kind of from where we sit in that data agnostic sort of space, it's really interesting to have exposure to all of the volume of different data sources that analysts are having to kind of contend with. And you're right, it is a big challenge, because it's consistently, it's continually evolving, and you've kind of got this evolution of the different technologies and data sources and opportunities to provide better context and understanding of what they're actually looking for or trying to find, or understanding of behaviors. But then you've also then got to have that understanding of they need to be able to take action upon these as well. So there's a real nice balance between handling all these different sources of information and actually really rapidly deriving which are the key data points to focus on to actually then take forward into action. And I think the other thing was you can immediately kind of see that challenge that analysts are dealing with as well, because it's also not just all the technologies that are evolving and different data sources that they can kind of draw on that they have to start thinking about, but actually those patterns of illicit activity and behaviors and some of the things that they're actually looking for aren't set in stone either. So there's an evolution of the MO of people that are undertaking these illegal activities as well. So
Right.
it's a pretty incredible job that the analysts are doing. They've got to sit there and balance all of these new incoming technologies and abilities and learning and understanding of that, and then combine that with what is incredibly hard to find in terms of illicit behaviors and illegal activities, and sort of be across both of those competing kind of races, which is super exciting to see. And again, amazing for us to kind of see that in person and have some exposure to how we can support both of those challenges.
Yeah, so there's an opportunity in having multiple players there, multiple tools, as well as a challenge. In the end of the day, you need to get stuff done. You need to synthesize the information and communicate the results to the teams, to the active teams on the ground, in the air, on the water. That's what you need exercises for, I guess, really, right? And I guess that brings us back to why we're doing our Operation TS. Our Operation TS is not an exercise where we deploy ships and try boarding, but it is a desktop exercise. And why are we running Operation TS, and what are we hoping to learn?
Yeah, and I guess I've just kind of shared some sort of scant overview of some of our experiences of being involved in that operational setting, and we're really aware that actually that's quite a rare opportunity. Not everyone's being involved in these kind of multilateral operations or multi-agency or even multi-sort of data source driven kind of operations, and so that's the real driver behind running Operation TS, and why we look at doing these kind of open operations, I guess is a way you could describe it, is to really show how end users and customers and non-customers alike can actually understand how to address some of these challenges. We've learned loads by participating in these and supporting these in the real world scenarios. And so the feedback that we kind of get from that is helping to shape Starboard, but it's also great to kind of be able to expose these processes and data flows and findings and insights with a wider audience as well, because, we can always gain more feedback and experience and insights, and actually then it's giving those that are following us a chance to kind of see how these emerging technologies are actually coming together to solve a potential problem in that operational setting, without having to go and do that in a live environment with a lot of pressure on it, and with potential risk around it as well. So that's the kind of big driver behind why we do these open operations, and particularly Operation TS. And we've got that focus with Operation TS around looking at ship-to-ship oil transfers and some of that sort of illegal commodities trading of oil in that South China Sea area. And so that's the big demonstration and operation that we're really excited to roll out next week. Some of the partners.
Excellent. So it's a give and receive a job for us. We're practicing for a real operation. We're honing our pipelines and our communication skills, and at the same time, for those who follow and watch us, we're hoping to provide a lot of useful information and that hopefully helps them in their day-to-day work. Excellent. So this operation, our Operation TS, will take place while you're actually out of the office, which you are a lot, but you'll be in Sydney next week. November 7 to 10
Yep.
is the Pacific Expo in Sydney, Australia. What will you do there?
Yeah, well, I'm going to be standing on our stand and doing a lot of live demonstrations with our partners from S&P, Planet and Spire. We've been looking at really bringing this to life. So in person, we'll be doing a lot of demonstrations at the Indo-Pacific 2023 conference, but we'll actually then be sharing that information online and updating a lot of that live content as we go through for those that aren't there as well. And it's kind of, as we've just been talking about, it's going to be a real focus around how you can use emerging technology and tools, and in this case, apply that to combating of illegal commodity smuggling and in particular oil trading.
Excellent. So everybody who's in Sydney who's attending, please search out Matt. Here's our event webpage that you can hopefully have bookmarked, that you'll have seen if you've registered for this interview, and we'll be populating this page with everything that's going on. Please share this webpage with your friends and colleagues who might benefit from this content. If you scroll down, there's our interviews that we have lined up. Number one here, Matt, this is happening right now. And later on today, Jim Thompson, VP of Product at Planet, and two others coming up. And further down, we've got more activities that are related to the Indo-Pacific event. Now, I'd like to turn over to our audience to hopefully ask for any questions from the audience. Please use the Q&A section if you'd like to ask Matt a question. Currently, I don't see any questions. We are situated here in New Zealand time, so it is just coming up to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, which means it's in the middle of the night for many people. But I do have one question here actually coming in. Thank you very much. Are you teamed up with any synthetic aperture radar analytics partners? So SAR satellite partners, yeah.
Yeah, so as I kind of sort of touched on earlier, so we're very much in that data agnostic platform space, and so we work with all of the synthetic aperture radar providers, RF, EO, VERS. We're non-exclusive across all of those providers, but Starboard has been built to ingest and visualize and correlate all of those different data sources from remote sensing providers, commercial satellite providers. So yeah.
For this exercise, though, we specifically list Planet, and they provide optical imagery at high resolution, and one of the companies that have that take almost continuous images rather than having to task them. Thank you for that question. Anybody else? Well, we've come up to our 20-minute time slot. I'd like to thank Matt very much for taking the time to talk to me. A huge thank you to the audience. Please provide feedback to us. You can reach out to us via email or via our social media accounts. Please tell everybody about our operation and about the link to sign up. And we hope to hear from you and see you soon. Thank you very much.
Nice one. Thanks, Moritz. And I'll be running those other interviews today with Spire and Planet and Standard & Poor's as well, S&P. So look out for those. But thank you again for joining us today.